Hi traders, haven't done a video for a couple of days. My last video, the next day, really put mud in my face, but it turned out my trades worked out real well. But at any rate, the inauguration's over with, and I'm seeing a lot of risks next week to the downside. And I have a lot of traders who are telling me that the market's just going to go up next week, and I'm going to give you the reasons why I think it's more likely to go to the downside, in my opinion. Now, typically, a lot of chartists, they like to draw their trend lines off the very extremes and then try to judge support and resistance areas for entry points. So instead of doing that, I have drawn some trend lines to try to give you an idea of some volatility changes. Okay, and basically, if you see this trend line right here, once we break this trend line, you see how the volatility picks up? Okay, and we're right at that trend line again. So next week, I'm thinking we're going to drop down for a volatility increase in the markets, because typically you stair step up and you take the elevator ride down on the markets whenever it starts breaking. And I'm thinking that's what we're setting up for here. Here's another one. I'm using my trend line to try to identify volatility. And if you can see this trend line here, see how these little bitty candles, they were just right on the trend line? And that's what we've been doing the past couple weeks. Okay, I think we're setting up here to potentially break this trend line and then get some volatility. The Qs are looking better on a weekly basis, so just keep that one in mind. Okay, now if you look at your IWM, this is your Russell, and this has been the Trump effect rallier. And you see for the week, we closed negative for the week on IWM, and this is on inauguration day. That tells me that the Trump effect in the small caps might be over right day one of his election. Okay, and as of today, this week we have crossed below this trend line, and typically what's happening here, you get higher volatility when you get on the downside of it, and we have a closing week below it. So that's why I'm thinking next week the volatility is going to pick up and we're going to start seeing some weakness in the markets. The CBOE, once a day, they are at the end of every week on Fridays, they will post the upcoming earnings for next week. Now this is a pay service, so if you don't get the posting from the stream on Fridays, you'll have to look for it. Otherwise, you have to sign up for the service. But this is a very good, accurate earnings calendar for the coming week. And I do want to point out here, you do have you got BABA reporting next week. You got Qualcomm reporting next week. And I think Google's reporting next week, if I'm not mistaken. And I don't see it on the list here. So just keep that in mind. One of the reasons I have a little bit of concern for the Qs next week, you notice how we've came up here 2 days back to back, and on big candles, they're rejecting higher prices on the Qs. Now Monday it might just blow right through that Monday morning, but I'm just telling you that that is a reason why I think the Qs are going to be weak next week. Okay. Now this is a trade that I did put on. I am trading for potential weakness in the market the start of the week. So I am trading for the gap fill on the Netflix. So this is something you guys may want to check out Monday morning. Bristol Myers had a disagreement with Merck on some sort of patent issues, and the news came out today, and it had a huge gap down pre-market, and it based out here today. So this is one I actually took to the long side, thinking we're going to get a relief rally come Monday. And there was news out after hours that they had reached some sort of agreement on some of the issues. So this one here is a good candidate for a pop Monday. Qualcomm, like I mentioned, has their earnings out next week. And there was news that came out very late in the day uh, that Apple was suing Merck. This news did come out late enough in the day that I think that this would have came out earlier in the day. Qualcomm probably would have had time to bounce. It is below trend. The trend, it is below the trend. A lot of times they'll bring it down and then and then rip the shorts heads off the next day. So this is one I am looking for a potential bounce. Now I do have another trader who's somebody I really respect, and he must have got in at a better price point because he kept the puts into next week. So just keep this one on your watch list as a potential reversion. It's going to be a quite active Monday. I was watching Gilead how it was trading before the speech actually even started, so I did add some Gilead to the short side on the puts for this week, or for next week, and this thing did break support and close below support. So this is one. The biotechs in general are an area that I do think is going to have some relative weakness, and if the markets do go lower, I think the biotechs will lead the markets lower. So. That's just a few ideas that I have, and I'm going to keep this video real short. But I do have very good reason to think that the market is about to have some higher volatility and going to be breaking some trend lines next week. There is a lot of earnings out, so I'm not sure if the market's ready to sell off yet or not, but I do think we're going to get volatility, a lot more intraday volatility at the very least in the short term. Thanks a lot.